Why do y'all care about Bud's bag? I'm just trying to figure this out. I only ask this question because we now know Bud Crawford, Errol Spence Jr., the fight's not happening. If you ask me, it's never going to happen. Shout out to those two. Bud Crawford is slated to take on David Avanesian, and Errol Spence Jr. doesn't currently have a bout coming up scheduled, rumored to be Keith Thurman. We'll see what it is. But I asked this question, why do you care about Bud's bag so much? To all the Bud Crawford fans out here that continually move the goalpost. And I've broken this fight down when it was still a possibility to happen, and there was definitely very strong reactions. Oh, you know, you dick ride and this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 blah. I thought it was pretty fair to both combatants. However, the Bud Crawford side is very, very, what's a good word for aggressive when it comes to making their points known and heard. I'm just confused. How do you go from Bud Crawford's going to destroy Errol Spence Jr., knock him out, embarrass that boy, basic boxing looking ass Errol, to, well, hey, at least he got 10 million. Who else you wouldn't want to fight for 10 million? He got a bag. As a boxing fan, I am curious. When was it crucial to you, unless you're in the camp? So if you are getting a portion of Bud's bag, I totally get it. Keep doing your thing. You're a pad man, guy or whatever, strength and conditioning coach. Keep doing your thing. But to the regular ass civilian fan out there, when is some individual's bag, how much money they're going to potentially make, become your primary focal point when assessing or evaluating if you are going to be or continue to be a fan of a fighter? Bud Crawford's bag. Because now it's looking silly. It's looking very ridiculous. I agreed to everything. I didn't agree. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm doing everything in my power. These are all quotes from Bud Crawford talking about what he's willing to do to get the fight made. It's over. And I did a video the night it was announced that he was taking on David Avanesian. And I said, if I got to be or have an opportunity to be in Bud Crawford's, his war room, I would say to him, no more interviews. You have nothing else to say. You taking 10 million, BOK Prime, Avanesian, that's great. Stop talking because you're not doing yourself any favors. Speaking of which, the resume conversation has popped up once again. Bud Crawford did an interview, I want to say it was last week, with Kate Abdo. And I was going to do a video on this earlier. I just didn't get around to it. But shout out to the boxing scene. They put out an article this morning essentially covering the base that I wanted to cover. And I have a direct quote about the level of delusion that you have to operate with if you're a Bud Crawford and some of the fans, because these talking points exist all over the place if you spend enough time on the internet. Now, once again, shout out to the boxing scene. This is a direct quote from the Kate Abdo interview that Bud Crawford gave concerning Errol Spence's resume. This is a quote. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now. You can read along if you'd like. Here's a quote from Bud Crawford. Kate Abdo at one point asked Bud Crawford, hey, what are Errol Spence's signature wins? Bud's response was, and I quote, Errol Spence wins, I would say, Kell Brook, Sean Porter. You got to put Mikey Garcia and Danny Garcia and Ugas. Even though Danny Garcia never won any significant fight at 147, he didn't beat anybody. He lost to everybody. Even though Mikey Garcia never fought in the division before, even though Ugas had been beaten numerous times, Sean Porter had already been beaten, Kell Brook was already beaten. I'm just stating facts. So that's a direct quote from Terence Bud Crawford as it pertains to addressing Errol Spence's signature wins. Now, if I look back at this list here, you guys, I had it up on the screen, then I'll put it back up here. I'm going to read some names to you. Kell Brook, Sean Porter, Yordenis Ugas. Yordenis Ugas, coming off the best victory of his career, defeating Manny Pacquiao, becoming a champion, gets destroyed by Errol Spence Jr. Kell Brook got his eye broken, undefeated at welterweight at the time, fought in his backyard. IBF belt goes to Errol Spence Jr. Mikey Garcia, at the time, I believe, was 39-0, three-division world champion, coming up to challenge Errol Spence Jr. Now, and Danny Garcia, in my opinion, is one of the best fighters to ever fight. Now, that's great. But how do you fix your mouth to say, if you're Bud Crawford, that Sean Porter, Kell Brook, these guys have already been beaten, so are they really that good? when you came behind Errol Spence to beat those guys. But if you ask him what are his notable victories, he's going to name these same guys. You don't get to have it both ways. It's very, very head-scratching what's happening with Bud Crawford. But that aside, it goes back to my original point. Stop talking. You're fighting. If I'm going out there, I would say, hey, look, listen. He was on MMA, the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. Hey, Ariel, love to be on the show. This is great. Here's the thing. If you're not going to ask me questions about David Avanesian, BOK Prime maybe, then that's where the interview has to be. To continue to have conversations centered around why the Errol Spence fight broke down. And in the Ariel Helwani MMA Hour, he states, I blame the business of boxing as to why this didn't happen. Well, my friend, Mr. Crawford, you yourself are a self-proclaimed boss. You're your own boss. You make all your own decisions. You've been negotiating in poor faith with PPC since, May, June. Then come to find out you're also negotiating with BOK Prime simultaneously. We know that's not a good look. You are operating the business for your side. If the business of boxing is why this didn't happen or work out, this is your fault. And I've avoided the pure blame game, I think, up until a couple of videos ago. But Bud Crawford was not interested in fighting Errol Spence Jr. And the other thing is this. I've avoided using the word duck because I think I've been misapplying the word. I think when we think about the word duck, we think about it from a perspective of someone is scared to fight someone else or whatever the case may be. When you avoid a fight for any reason, even if it's spite, play games, hold undisputed up over someone's head, all those things can be identified, in my opinion, as a duck. And I think that Terence Bud Crawford flat ducked an Errol Spence Jr. What does the future hold 2023, assuming that Bud Crawford and Errol Spence get past their opposition, whoever they may be? This fight's not happening. I cannot see a scenario where this fight happens. I think that's why sometimes, if I had to explain why you see Crawford go back and forth from straight finger pointing to then blaming the business of boxing and kind of having more of a soft approach, is the hope and potential that maybe in his mind he can get this done. But for someone who's been very clear about double dealing and going behind PBC's back and, having some choice words about Al Heyman and Errol Spence, you go out, you do this Avanesian fight, which is short of flop. This is not looking good. That's a whole nother video. Then you come back around and say, all right, guys, Errol, PBC, Showtime, Steven Espinosa, I'm ready. I'm here. Let's sit down and let's negotiate this fight. It just seems unlikely to me. It just seems unlikely. And what's crazy about this entire conversation is Terence Bud Crawford is a tremendous fighter. I think he's getting to the point where he might be exiting his prime. Time is of the essence, if not running out. We as fans definitely got to do better. Because if you're a Bud Crawford fan, I'm a fan of Bud Crawford myself. I get to be disappointed. Like, damn, that wasn't a good look. And that's okay. Blind following any decision he makes, you high-fiving, even if it's a shit decision. He getting that bag. How does it change your life and your perspective as a boxing fan if Terence Bud Crawford, who you don't know, who you've never met, gets paid $10 million, and you watch David Avanesian fight him in Omaha? How is that scintillating? How does that fulfill you as a boxing fan, knowing that this is what you're going to get from one of the best fighters on the planet today, that fight? I don't give a shit about his bag. I want to see the best fighters fighting the best fighters. And I think that's what we should all be striving for. There's a lot of reasons why we might miss out on fights. You simply shrugging your shoulders and being a shitty business dealer shouldn't be one of them. But that's the situation that we're in right now. This is your boy JG. This has been the Punch Report. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notification. If you made it this far, you definitely a real one. We out.